have them all, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah.
Solid waste. Emergency management. and police. Thank you.
Oh, no, I usually divvy them out, but then if they sit on the table, either Stacy picks them up or I pick them up the next time around. And then either we put them in the mailbox, or I put them there, like this is school for tonight, so I save it. So the next takes me. Or maybe they took it out and thought it was old. I don't know.
All right, are we ready? Call this meeting to order. Start with a roll call. You want to start first?
Taylor Plant.
Jacob Bemis.
Dave Hershey.
Ruben Parker. A motion to approve the agenda.
Motion made.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll jump right in. Solid waste.
Even.
Hi.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
So since some people are just getting it, do you mind just spending a couple of minutes and just talking us through some of the, since some people are just now getting the handouts, you mind just kind of talking through some of the changes from 21 to 22?
Yeah, for this year's budget, 2021, I can see I'm gonna be over. Because, population, more residents. And for 2022, most of the increase is to do with the payroll and line items are up. One's 2 new tires for the loader. That demo solid waste, I added some more tonnage to that. Those are all 2.5% increased contract. Another 4 years, I believe, left on that.
On the equipment rental line, it looks like that went up.
At the increase, the solid waste cap, it's gotta be mowed twice a year now, required by the state. Used to be once, twice now.
Got it. So it's a change in how
Has to
often we
be
do
what?
it.
The landfill cap has to be mowed twice a year
A
now. Used to
mode.
be
I'm
once.
sorry. I just didn't.
Talked with Gene Conservation Committee, they were looking for somebody, so I'm put a bug in his ears, maybe we put it out to bid, see if we can get somebody to do it for them and for us.
Mhm.
That's a thought I brought up to him.
Is that something, sorry. Is that something that we can tag team with the cemetery group? Right? Do we go in and cut the cemeteries?
I can't do it.
Okay.
I don't have nothing big enough.
Oh, okay. What are they? Just lawnmowers?
Yeah, it's a brush hog.
Okay, that's what you need. You need the brush hog kind of
Yeah,
thing?
I need a
Okay.
brush hog, and I believe that's what Gene uses too, but yeah, cemetery, those are just regular.
And then where were we on the replacement of the, sorry. I only start coughing when I start talking, you know. Where were we on the replacement of the building?
Placement of the building, been CIP committee about that. Talk to them. As I told them, every department's in the same boat. I would like to replace that building someday. Good plans.
I thought we had that on the list.
Yeah, how long ago was that?
3 years, 4? Is what,
It's been quite a while.
okay. But then I thought 2 years ago, we were talking about you were making not a surplus, but a profit, if you will, on the recycling. And the plan was to take
Yeah.
proceeds from the recycling and plow it into the,
Yeah, use
building.
some of that money towards the building.
and that just kind of fizzled out.
It's building, but we're also spending some money out of that. And the market changed, so the money in the plastic for the papers.
Right. So I'd mentioned before, I still think now's not the market to look at it. But look at, it's called a derivative swap, okay? Which means you can buy and securitize in the future the value of your recycling. Okay? It's like an insurance product. It's not quite, but kind of along that mentality where you pay a premium today for a guarantee, and let's use plastic as an example, that for the next 12 months, you will get exactly a certain dollar amount for your plastic. If a value goes up, you don't quite get all of that. Okay, the investment institution gets a piece of it. But if it goes down, you don't get any less than what you agreed to. So that can be a way of,
I don't think you're gonna get that from anybody.
well, not now, no,
I don't think you will at all, period. I've never heard of anything like that. It's just weekly or daily, the market changes. You're not gonna get.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that. And it swaps on the NYMEX, okay? But future contracts are pretty common. I would think that would be something we'd want to look at, not uncommon, so. Again, now's not the market to do that in, but, it's a way of offsetting some of that risk. So.
Under the equipment expense, it looks like that went up by 10,000 specifically related to the roll-off
That's
cans.
increased, containers, 5 containers. I'm spending $2,000 each for repairs. That's for the compactor cans for the trash. I replace it, they're about 20,000 a piece.
And are those things, is that like a routine maintenance where,
What's that?
is that like a routine maintenance where if we like tried to spread
No,
those out
that's
over the years or,
Years,
yeah?
yeah, it's not a yearly thing unless it breaks or gets damaged, but.
And how long is that landfill monitoring expected to go on? I know a while, but I mean, is there an end?
How long is it gonna be?
Yeah,
Forever,
yeah.
be forever. And that changes. What's that, every year, Liz, when's groundwater permit? That good for 2 years, was it?
Biennial.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a recommendation of the state, so
Right.
testing might go down, it might go up.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And as far as the monitoring goes, do we have a subcontractor that does that?
Yeah, we have a contact, that's
And at $10,000 a year, is that something that we would shop around? See if there's another contractor that would do it for less.
that, I believe we have a contractors.
We do. We have a contract with Hydro Geo. Something.
Yeah, somebody.
Change names.
John Kibitsky, yes. Yeah. He handles that for us and he has for years.
And do we know that that's a competitive price? And if we know that it is, how do we know that?
It is a competitive price. We're getting shorter. Because it was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, we looked into that
Okay.
and
He's been here. I've been here 19 years. I think he's been here that long.
Mhm. Just want to make sure that 19 years doesn't lead to a less competitive product. That's all. And it sounds like you did that due diligence 3 years ago or 2 or 3.
Any other questions or discussion?
Motion to approve solid waste budget of 529,625.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Scott. You too. Take care. Good night.
Good evening, everybody.
Make yourself comfortable.
Oh, here we go.
General comments you want to give? Or,
No, are we starting out with police, right?
yes,
The only one?
sorry.
Okay. So in general, the budget, most everything you'll see is either level funded or is at a decrease. The only change is we did some personnel changes. The Board of Selectmen approved the appointment of my lieutenant to deputy chief effective January 1. And what that does is it made his position a salary position versus hourly. And that increase in salary was offset by a decrease in overtime hours and in line. So there was no increase, and the budget actually decreased. I shouldn't say decreased from last year, but even including all of the payroll related items for the merit increases, the budget was still at about 2.1% increase overall.
Now, you're probably, I'm sure you're more familiar with the acronyms than I am, but all of the emergency money or COVID money, all right? As I sit here and cough, I'm just sorry. Is that reflected in this budget? So, or in other words, is this budget artificially low because of the revenue that we received from the COVID money?
No, absolutely not. There's none of that is tied into this at all. So, yeah, the COVID money was separated out with a warrant article from last year that we carried over. And the rest of it is in the emergency management funding and nothing in the police department.
Okay, so then next year it will be, for lack of a better phrase, a usual increase as opposed to the usual increase plus what we didn't get for COVID next year.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, great. There won't be, it'll be more of an even flow from year to year. And I'm not expecting, there's not gonna be like a balloon year or anything like that.
Mhm. Great. And just as a note, Jake and I met with the police department as part of our getting familiar with some of the departments. So that might explain why there's fewer questions you might anticipate for a budget this size.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, it's pretty flat to last year.
All right.
Any further discussion?
Motion to approve the police budget for $1,301,701.
I'll second it. Oops, sorry.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Emergency management?
With emergency management is pretty straightforward, other than the fact that from last year, we increased last year line 100, which is preparedness and response. We put $10,000 in there, which I carried over an additional $10,000 this year. That line in particularly is efforts to combat or respond to any COVID related incidents that we have within town. Or within the town employees with the town employees. Now, this is just a moderate response in the operating budget. What we did from last year is some of the CARES Act funding that we got that was left over. We carried over in a warrant article from last year. So any of the COVID related expenses that we've been accounting for separately, Laura does a good job of tracking that in separate lines so that at the end of the year, we don't, instead of attaching individual expenses out of that money or deducting it, she's keeping it isolated in a line till the end of the year. Then we can offset that, and it's a cleaner show for the auditors as to exactly how that's transpiring.
So then the 10,000, using that as the example, is essentially would be refunded through the CARES Act?
No, what we did is we kept 10,000 in the operating budget because the CARES Act funding was limited by time and also qualification for that program. We got the money that was allocated for Alton, but not all of that money went right. Some of that money was to offset wages and wait at that time, but that's not carrying over this year, and there's no more funding anticipated for next year. So moving forward into this year, the $10,000 is what we're going to have to locally deal with anything that we need to at that point in time.
What might be an example of that?
Of the 10,000?
Well, something that you would look to spend the 10,000 on.
A good example would be is if we had to buy more PPE for town offices, more masks, any sort of hand sanitizers above and beyond what we're allocating for. That's just to help the other departments if, you know, say like Parks and Rec uses a lot of PPE when they're going in and out of buildings, cleaning things and stuff like that. And she only got so much allocated for her cleaning materials and stuff, and we can supplement that with some of this funding specific for that. Yeah.
And so I think they did, especially last year, we haven't seen them all this year, but they put some money in their own budgets. They increased their own budgets for that sum last year. This is just if it's in excess of that.
Yeah. And for isolated incidents where it's more of a town, like I'll give you a good example where it's not just one department. Last year, we had to provide some deep cleaning through ServPro for the voting locations. Because that was part of our agreement with them is that we would clean. You know, obviously we did cleaning before, but then there was a professional cleaning done after the fact. And then we were also using fogging equipment, those fogging guns, to go in and disinfect as well. And I anticipate that we're going to have to do that again this year.
When I look at the current expenses for emergency management, it does look like there are some wages and stipends. I don't see that in the budget for 22.
Right. So the wage is that we paid out last year or this year currently was for the greeter position that we had at the front door for a while. That was a temporary position. And once some of the mandates have been lifted in the state of emergency, that position dissolved. So that was the wage issued. Stipends. That was money that was brought in from the CARES Act. Specifically, so that's not carrying on. That was for a certain duration.
Any other discussion?
I didn't have any. Motion to approve the emergency management for $11,003.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks for everything.
So we have the assessing department on here. The department head was not able to make it. We had talked about this at the end of last meeting. I did reach out with a couple of questions that I can share the responses on, and if we feel like we have enough to vote on it, we will, and if not, then we can follow up with any additional questions. It was assessing, right? Yeah.
My recollection, Ruben, was that on contracted services, there was a big decrease because the increase was associated with a couple of specific properties which would not repeat themselves.
So the increase for 2021 was because of the reval. We were mandated by state law to have a reval every, I think it's 5 years or 7 years or something like that. And that's a one-time thing. So it's not needed for next year. The cases that you're talking about would have been in the legal budget.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right.
And the postage was related, I think, to the decrease in postage was the same thing. They had to send out hearing notices, and they won't need to do that in 22. And then the other question that I had asked was about the map updating. That cost went up. And it was, it's a new contract, or it's a new contractor. And so not knowing what the total is going to be, they just budgeted the 5,000 for next year.
Does it seem odd that we would engage a new contractor and not know what the price is?
So let me read what they said, because I may not be representing it properly.
Yeah.
The mapping contract has been switched from Cartograph Associates to Anchor, and Anchor has provided us with an estimate of service for 5,000 for the first
Oh,
year.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
We just don't have the
No,
actuals to
no,
base it on.
yeah, got it.
Any,
Yeah. Okay.
any questions?
Motion to approve the assessing department for 147,327.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to old business, approval of minutes from October 14th. I'll make a motion, we approve.
Sorry. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business?
Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry, Jake. You were going to say something?
I was just going to ask, at what point do we, I know the Board of Selectmen has requested that when we make recommendations, we send it to them in writing, which makes sense. At what point do we want to address reaching out to them and making the request to start meeting earlier on the next budget cycle? Because we talked about it, but we didn't actually make a motion to formally reach out and request that we start to plan or schedule earlier meetings for budget.
Brock did communicate to me that he did raise that with the select board and they were in agreement
Oh, okay.
with it.
Very good.
I don't know if we want to, we can maybe talk to him next time he's here and just see if
Then we'll save that
we
for
need to
him.
do something more
Okay.
formal on it, but it did sound like there was support for that approach.
Excellent. Very good. And no other business.
And actually, Laura, there was one other item, perhaps two, that you were going to send something to the selectmen.
That I was gonna send,
Yeah.
would that have been?
Oh, I told you not to forget it.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
there were only 2 budgets left, right?
Oh, no, this was more of a procedural or a process thing.
Okay.
Okay. What were the two issues we had? One was to suggest a budget that was 5% less. I think. And I was thinking there was one other.
You're talking about the warrant article for the tax impact or the tax impact being displayed on the
Bingo.
warrant articles.
Thank you.
Now
Yes.
that I remember we kind of,
Right.
I think that was kind of what triggered the response that we should follow a more formal process on sending it in writing to the Board of Selectmen. Now, we did, I believe that a motion was made and approved for that recommendation, so
Yep.
someone really just needs to draft and send it, I guess, right? On behalf of the
Well,
committee?
I think there's two things on the table related to that.
Okay.
One is the procedural change for next year.
Mhm.
For the season budget season hasn't started yet.
Correct.
But then at least I think, we were also talking about for this year,
Mhm.
making a request that the tax impact be included on the budget. Or not the budget, but the tax impact being shown on the warrant article.
Correct. And I remember we were advised on that the Board of Selectmen needs to create a warrant article to be approved by the electorate, if I'm not mistaken, to essentially approve that for the next cycle, the tax impact be displayed on each warrant article. So that's the process as governed by the state.
So then I guess the question on the table then, at least that I thought, was twofold.
Mhm.
One, the procedural change for next year. Okay, that was one item. And then the other item is that in order to have the tax impact on a warrant article, it required the Board of Selectmen to say, yeah, we'll do that.
Correct.
Okay,
think
which
so.
could be done for this cycle, because that's more of a procedural change.
Well, I know
And
we.
there's the
The
question.
warrant article,
Well,
this
yep.
cycle, right?
So what?
The warrant article to ask the town to approve it would be this cycle, and then if approved, it would be next.
It would be on the March ballot. But I just want to make a comment to you about that particular RSA that does that.
Okay.
You want to, there are some municipalities that do that, but there are a lot that don't. Because that tax estimate at the bottom of every warrant article is only an estimate. And it's not accurate, and it's based on 2 years old information. So it can be a little misleading at times. So that's probably why a lot of municipalities don't have that on the bottom of their warrant article. But under the law, yeah, it is something that falls under the purview of the selectmen. And
Mhm.
so I guess if you want,
I'd be
them to do that.
I'd be still in favor of that, because an estimate is better than having no idea whatsoever. I mean, if, as an
Give
example, if it
everybody
was
the
a
3-finger
30-cent
rule for the ballot.
impact,
yeah, I
Okay.
still don't get that.
it would still be good to know that it's 30 cents plus or minus something versus $4.50.
So, as the selectmen have indicated, if there is a request that you have for them, you just want to put it into writing. So if you want them to do a warrant article, then
Okay, and I think that's, what is that process?
someone needs to
An email, right?
writing from the budget committee. That's what
to
they've
who?
asked for, to the selectmen.
Okay,
And there's actually a BOS email, isn't there?
There is.
Okay, so now a couple of meetings ago, I think we already approved that. I think there was a motion and it
I
was,
thought so too, but I
It
don't think
carried, it
anybody
just
actually
needs to-
carried
right.
it through.
do you mind
Because you
Ruben
don't
as
have a
chair?
Secretary.
Sending just a letter that we recommend that?
Yeah, I can send that.
And we're in, right, I mean, we're in agreement to do that?
Yeah,
I
we-
don't mean to suggest I was trying to railroad something.
If my memory, I can look through the minutes, but I'm fairly positive that we already, the motion already carried to make that recommendation. It just needs to be formally sent over.
Yep.
So, if you don't mind. Ruben,
No,
I think
what
that
I'll
makes
do
sense.
is I'll go back to the minutes, and if they're, I guess, clear enough for me to base it on those minutes,
Okay,
I will. Otherwise, we can bring it up.
we can bring it up again.
Make sure we're clear on what it is we're asking for.
And as far as the trying to take a new approach to the budgets with the percentages and stuff, were we gonna try and my question there, like with the 505 or whatever we end
I
up
think
on?
that was for the next cycle.
Right, for the next cycle.
Yeah, not this one.
Exactly, because I know we talked about that, but I don't think any motion actually carried for that one yet.
Well, I
so-
think that was tied to our desire to meet with the Board of Selectmen earlier.
Right, exactly, and then that's
Yeah,
something we could
right.
propose ahead of all the action on the budget.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That all makes sense to me.
But the one that we were looking to execute now was the tax estimator impact per warrant article.
Correct, and that one did carry, so we can look back and confirm it.
So now, even if you look at in the effort of, getting, doing this in one step, even if you look at the minutes and the minutes are unclear, I think based on this discussion, it's now clear. So no matter what the minutes say, we have enough clarity here as to what we want to do. Does that make sense?
I mean, if you like, I don't think there's any legal issue with us. If you want to re-motion it, we can approve it again right now, and then it's very clear if it would carry.
It'll save you even looking for the minutes.
Yeah.
So I guess my motion would be that we make a request to the Board of Selectmen that all warrant articles would have the estimated tax impact included at the bottom of each warrant article.
And to clarify that our specific request is that they consider approving that warrant article for this cycle. Because you have to create a warrant article to approve
Well, there'll be a bunch of warrant articles.
yeah,
Yeah, so if we're just address the process.
correct. Yeah,
Whether there's 1 or 60, okay,
correct.
that
Yeah,
process will just apply to whichever ones are developed,
gotcha. Okay.
when they're
Yeah.
developed.
I second.
All in favor?
Liz or Laura, did you get any kind of sense as to discussions for number of warrant articles this year? I mean, a few or any?
Let's see, I think we're up to 40 some odd right now. They're not all money warrant articles, though. Yeah. Still being that, the warrant is still being worked on.
Any other business?
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Thank you.
You seem to be too fast.
We're getting into the groove.
Motion to take more time?
Denied.
Kill the speakers.
I do have a question about some of the, was there some of the departments that haven't been